Hello, everybody. Welcome in our series of testimonies. And today we have some special guests. They actually come from Scotland, but they live in the Netherlands. And they have a remarkable story which we would like to share with you. So, welcome, Bill and Catherine. And thank you for coming to this place because, Catherine, you have quite a long story of pain, emotional and physical. And would you mind telling us a little bit about it?
Yes, I've had for quite a long time, about more than 20 years. I've had a lot of emotional pain and a lot of physical pain. And in my journey, I've been learning more about who God is and what He wants to be for me. And in my journey, I was hoping to find relief from living the life of joy and abundance that He talks about, that I didn't feel as though I was living it. So I've been always seeking to come to that place.
So I heard in the Dutch testimony it was about 28 years you
Yes,
suffered.
it was.
So it must have been very hard for you and also very hard for you, Bill, having a wife who just can't cope with life. Is this the right word?
Yes, that would be the right word, yes.
So how was your experience during those 30 years?
I was seeing continuous pain. Sometimes there was relief from pain, but then it was coming back. Emotional ups and downs, going well, then not going well, and it was like a roller coaster.
Yeah. So it was not an easy life for both of you. So 30 years or 28 years, you were a Christian?
Yes.
All the time. You talked about life in abundance or life and abundance, and you didn't experience it.
No, I wasn't experiencing it.
And a big change came when you went to a Fatherheart School. But my question is, why did you went to a Fatherheart School? I can imagine you went to a lot of conferences and schools in your Christianity and
Yes, I've done many studies over the years, and during that time I learned a lot about who God was. But I realized that I wasn't actually experiencing who He said He was. And unknowingly I'd adapted of doing the good works, looking to be a good enough Christian, to study well, to be smart enough, thinking that was the way to the Father. But I realized that it wasn't. I was missing something.
and then you came. I mean, then you heard about the Fatherheart School.
I met some people on a boat that had been to the Fatherheart School, and they gave me a small taste of, this is where you experience the Father's love in your heart. And from there, I decided to make the decision to go on a Fatherheart School.
And Bill, didn't you have the idea? We tried so many things, did so many things. Why should we do this Fatherheart School?
Yeah, it was. Catherine decided to go, and I thought, that's good. That's great that she goes. I didn't at that time feel it was for me, but I was hopeful that she would come back and have some healing.
So you went there with hope.
I went there with expectations that I was going to meet the Father. I was also very desperate to actually meet Him because of all the things I had done before.
Yeah.
So I did come with expectancy.
So when you arrived, when you arrived, did already happen things quickly? What happened?
I think it was by about the second or third day that things started to change inside, because I was hearing about this father who just wanted his children to come home. This father who loved me and had formed me before the beginning of time, which was quite strange because I'd heard the message before, but this time I seemed to receive the message.
And can you point out a difference? Was there a difference, or?
Yes, there was a difference. I think the first time was, I think my heart got prepared by the teaching on how the Father actually looks at us, unconditional love. Then there was an impartation with prayer, where I came as a child to receive love that I had never received in the core of my being. And I received an impartation from the prayer.
And if you're an adult person just coming like a child, isn't it difficult?
I found it very difficult. I had to lay down the fact that I was an adult lady who'd done many studies and had many diplomas for many things, and had even been in Christian work, to actually admit that I was in need to my Father, that I was in need and I was a little child and I needed him to meet me where I was. So yes, I had to swallow pride and actually be honest and say, I ain't got nothing. Unless you give me something, I have nothing.
So being desperate was motivating you to go for it?
Yes.
And then they just prayed for you? Or?
They prayed for me.
And then a change came?
Then I felt an impartation of something warm coming inside me, a peace that came inside me.
And have you had this experience before?
I have had experience before. Well, yes. No, maybe not exactly the same, but I have had some experience before, but they haven't lasted long. It's as if I had a leak.
and yeah, when we talk about the leak, there was taught in the school about a container which is in every human being to contain the love of the Father. Can you talk about this thing?
Yes, about the container, that the place where is only that from the beginning of time, I was meant to receive the love of the Father. Normally, you receive it by example through your parents, but none of our parents are perfect. There's only the perfect Father. So I didn't receive that when growing up. So it was empty, or it didn't have much in it. So I needed to receive it. And I think maybe there was some holes in it. There was some damage that had happened, that there was some holes in it. So I think the prayer wasn't only fill the tank, it was repair the holes, to stop it leaking out.
So it was also a study around the subject.
Yes, it was.
And then the experience started.
That's when it started. My heart started to become more at peace and more open to know more and to receive more. So I was ready to receive everything I could get.
So you came desperate, and somewhere in the middle of the week you received already the peace.
Yes.
Which gave you much more hope and expectancy, I suppose.
Yes, it did.
And after this moment of filling the container and restoring the holes in it, there was also something with writing a letter.
Yes, one of the forgiveness sessions, we got to write a letter to our parents or to our mother about the kind of daughter I was. And although I had done forgiveness before, I had never thought of this. So I had written this letter to my parents, mostly to my mother, about the kind of daughter I was to her, which wasn't as what God intended me to be for her. And when I had written that letter, it was as if a peace came upon me. That was the first phase after writing the letter.
Yeah. When you, I mean, your mother and your father didn't manage to be a father and a mother as they were supposed to be.
No.
So you came out of a not so easy background, as
No.
far as I know. Mostly people write letters to tell their parents what they did wrong. So in the Fatherheart School, they told you to write a letter about were you on the right way a daughter. It must have been shocking.
Yes, it was. I'd done the one before, but I was now seeing it from a different perspective, and that was shocking at first. But then I thought, well, I'm beginning to know this God of love. There's a good reason for this. So I was happy to write it.
So you were Christian for a long time, and now you say after all those years you started to realize he was a loving God. So how was the experience before?
How was my experience before? I think I believed in my head he was a loving God. And I was going through the motions of being good enough for him to love me. And I'd also been working for God. And I suppose after a period of time I thought that if I carry on being good enough and working hard for him, then I will eventually be good enough for him to love me. So there was some, and of course it wasn't happening. So really, I suppose I was living in unreality. I hadn't experienced it, really.
And when we talked before, you emphasized that you felt not good enough, and that you even developed a lifestyle of being not good enough. Is this the reason why you thought by doing the good things?
I think my lifestyle, my survival lifestyle that I'd learned, I was never seen or heard and not really wanted. So I had adopted a lifestyle, be good enough for everybody else and be smart enough and learn everything. And that is the key to be loved and have a successful life.
Yeah.
And of course, what's happened with the Fatherheart School is it's a father who just wants his children to come home. And I am his daughter, and he welcomes me home, and I don't have to do anything to receive his love or to come home to him.
Now, I have experienced many people who, if you talk about the subject, they say, I am home. Even if you see they see Christianity the same way you did. So it's not easy.
Yeah, no, I think I can understand that, because I thought I was home too. I thought I'd accepted Jesus and I was guaranteed salvation, which is true. But it was if there was a place inside of me that was empty, it missed something. And when I received the love of the Father in there, it was like a homecoming, as if part of me had been lost, had been empty. And then suddenly I received this love from this Father without having to do anything, but just to say, here I am, and not having to perform, not have to be good enough, and not have to do anything right, and I could have it.
It must have been a relief.
It's amazing, because the combination of writing the letter to my mother, receiving an impartation of the love of the Father, and then on the evening I had a a dream that Jesus and my mother and father were before me. And I was so excited because I had introduced my mother and father to Jesus. Could have been so good Christian, you know. But I wondered if they really were there. And of course, this dream was, there was my mother, there was my father, and Jesus was there. They really were in heaven. So I would see them when I went there. So at that moment, it was as if extra love seemed to fill me even more. Yes, they're in heaven. Yes, Jesus is really there. But everybody was happy up there. They were really happy, and happy that I was there, and there was just love coming from my mother, my father, from Jesus. And it was as if there was a great big sign in the heavens saying, "You are not guilty of anything, my child, just come home." And I feel as if the coming home was the core of my being, coming to meet the love of the Father, which I had never connected to before for some reason. I've no idea why I didn't before, but all I know that I have now.
Wow, that's great. And somewhere in the middle of the story, because now we talk about coming home, emotional rest, actually also emotional healing, but almost 30 years you suffered from quite some severe physical pains, as for instance this problem with your, was it the hips?
I had problems with my hip, and I'd had cancer as well, and that left me with problems on one side of my body. So I'd had problems with my back and with my hips and the left side of my body since I had cancer about 28 years ago. So it always gave me a problem.
So you're coming to the Fatherheart School. I don't think you were thinking about physical healing when you went there. You wanted
No,
to...
I just wanted the love of the Father.
Yeah. And then one night there was a present, there was a kind of a healing meeting, and you were prayed for.
Yeah.
And
I'd run forward. I thought, if there's more, I want it.
yeah. Because you had an expectation, because
Yeah.
he loved you.
Yeah, yeah.
And did you receive prayer for your physical condition before? I mean, in the years before?
No. Don't think I have. Not really, no.
Because you didn't expect it, or?
Yeah, I don't really know why. Yeah, I don't really know why, but I haven't had, no.
And now you went to the front, and what happened?
I went to the front, asked for prayer, and nothing happened straight away. But I thought, well, that's okay. Maybe tomorrow it'll be better.
That's a very interesting point, because many people, they go for prayer, nothing happens, they're disappointed, they go home, they feel guilty, they think maybe I've sinned, but you just thought...
Well, I think you said at the time, if anybody doesn't receive healing, if they've still got problems tomorrow, there's a guarantee. You can come back and have prayer again. I thought, that sounds good enough to me. If I don't wake up the next morning, I'm back. So the next day I came back.
Because you still had the same symptoms?
I still had some pain, yes.
Yeah, it's good to know you have a warranty on healing. So you came back, and then we prayed again?
Yes.
And the result was?
I felt a little bit better, but it wasn't completely gone.
So actually, hardly any result during the warranty period. Was it disappointing?
I think, you know, I had a view of that on the fact sometimes when I go to the doctor and I get pills when I used to go to the doctor, they don't always work straight away, although it gives me the pills to take them. So I thought, well, okay, I've been prayed for. Well, I'll leave it to God how He's going to work this out. So I didn't allow myself to be disappointed. I just said, I'm just going to wait in His time and see what happens the next day. Because I said, Lord, I want to dance in the last day of the Fatherheart School, and I can't dance unless you touch me.
And then at night time you went to bed, and then you had this dream or experience, how should I call it?
Yes, I think maybe I said the experience before. When I had this dream, that was when I had the dream about my mother, my father, and Jesus. And then almost as if there was "not guilty" was written across the heavens. Because I was saying, is there anything that I've done that's not right? Is there something between you and me that I need to repent of? And that's when I think I got not guilty of everything. It was all being washed by the blood of the Lamb. So that was the experience that was like a real freedom. It was like a freedom. Ha! I'm innocent. I'm fine. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't have any pain in my body.
Wow.
So I think the love of the Father touched my heart and affected the emotions. I think my letter to my mother put my relationship better with the Father the way that He intended with my own parents. I think that cleared away something that seemed to allow me to receive more of the good He wanted to pour in.
I'd like to come back on you said that you were innocent. You felt innocent, but did it meant perfect, sinless?
I think it was, I was feeling guilty for not being a bad daughter, for maybe not being a good daughter as I should have been. Looking back at my life, there was one thing dealing with all the things that they had done wrong, but what was my responses? And I think I was feeling guilty because of that. I felt they deserved better than what they got. And I think that grace that I got about not being guilty was the Father's love, just saying, it's been washed, it's fine. And I've seen my mother and father with joy and happiness in their face to see me and to be with me. With Jesus there, that was fine, it was good. It was good.
Not guilty didn't mean sinless, it meant...
It was not guilty for the things
acceptance.
I was acceptance of...
Yeah.
I suppose I accepted what Jesus had died for, and I felt free because of the forgiveness of what I had done. Never mind what anybody they had done, it's what had I done.
So coming back to that morning, you woke up after so many years without pain.
I know, it was great.
It must have been very...
I know, I was trying to move, and I danced on the last day, and I was stomping in all the balloons and having a party.
So I saw when you came in that morning, you were very happy, but I can imagine, I mean, you're suffering, you can't do the things normally you have to do, and then at once you can do them. Yeah,
and I was testing everything, you know, bending and stretching, testing it. And even when I left, I was still testing it, you know, and it stayed, of course.
And then you say, of course, how come you say, of course?
How come I say, of course?
Because it seems to be normal, or?
I think I must have had such a deep touch that I really knew inside that He touched me. It wasn't here. It was something happened inside that I knew He had touched me, that an experience of His love that will never be taken away. It doesn't matter what anybody ever says, that I experience something from Him that is not to explain, but it has changed something inside.
Well, I believe, as you believe, in the of course, it can't come back, of course, but there are not many people, not many Christians who have this, of course, who just think it might come back. You never know. So when I hear you, I think I hear you saying, of course, because it's normal. A loving father takes care about his children, and it can't come back. That's actually the whole thought you have.
That's
behind
what
it.
I've got behind it. I did have, when I went back after the Fatherheart School, it's funny, I did have a problem on one leg, was still playing up. And I went to the podiotherapy because I have, what do you call them, stone soldiers, for if you've got something wrong with your feet or you've got one side longer than the other. I had a height difference on one of my shoes. And I went to see him about them, because if I really was healed, I shouldn't be having this pain. So I don't know why it was having it there, but that's when we discovered that, yes, my hips were straight. The reason why I had a bit of discomfort was I was wearing in my shoes insoles that I didn't need.
Yeah.
There was an adjustment.
So that's why.
So it was like a confirmation for me. Of course, that's what it is.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Bill, then at the end of the school, Catherine comes home, and a lot of things changed. How do you cope with it?
I had mixed feelings to begin with, because I was hoping when she went to the school that she would be healed. But I'd seen things happen in the past. There had been some healings. There'd been some physical healings, but then a different problem came. So it was one problem was healed, but then another one came, and it just carried on like that. And also the same with emotional healing, that it didn't always last. And I was hoping. I thought, I really hope this lasts, because it's been a roller coaster throughout the years, up and down, up and down. And I could see that within perhaps a week after she came back, that there was some grief. So that made me doubt a little bit. I thought, oh yeah, what's happening now? But then, as the time went on, I could see that it was real, that the healing was real, because she was dealing with things in a different way. And that started me thinking, wait a minute, she's just got a touch of God that I haven't had. Because I've had the same. We've done a lot of the same studies. We've been in ministry together, and it's all up here. Yeah, it's all head knowledge. I know that God loves me in my head, but have I really experienced it? And so, when she got the invite to come to the 3 days of prayer and fasting in Belgium, I thought, I'm going to go and check this out. See what it's like. And it was really good. We fasted before, but never in that way. To be together for 3 days as a group and to fast together really made a difference. Really was able to hear a lot clearer from God. And some of my Dutch friends had said, you don't go to Belgium to fast, because Belgium's so well known for its good food. But we got really good spiritual food. We were really well fed in those 3 days.
And was it different because it was a group, or was it?
I think the fasting was made easier because it was in a group.
Yeah.
You've got more time to be able to focus and to hear from God. and being away from home, they're not the same distractions as you have when you're at home.
And coming back a little bit on the story, you said, Catherine, after a while I was convinced she was healed because she was dealing on a different way with life or with situations.
Yes, yeah.
Is it possible to give it detail, or is it you don't have to?
Started saying no.
Yeah, yeah. It was becoming clearer that that she knew who she was, that her identity was rooted in God. So instead of trying to please people, it's something that we've both had a problem with in the past. She was saying, "No, that's not who I am. I'm not going to do that. That's not me."
So, Catherine, in just this 1 week in Belgium in wintertime,
It is amazing.
it is.
I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, this is really real. I've had such a real experience, and it has completely changed my life because I look at everything differently and my choices. It's almost like the freedom just to be, and I don't have to do anything unless, the freedom. It's a freedom. And I'm still living it out, of course. It's quite fresh. And still want to know more and more of the Father's love, and more. If there's a lot more, I'm open to receive more on the journey and knowing Him more and more. So I think it's a journey I will continue being on while I'm here, but at least I feel as if I'm on the right road.
So it must be a shock for people when you don't say yes all the time anymore.
Yes, it can have complications because you think, who is this now? What is she doing? And I don't respond the same way. I just think, no, it's freeing that I don't have to be other than myself. I don't have to perform for somebody else, and yeah.
But you look complete free. Well, I think what would be, for instance, in your case, you saw Catherine had something, so it was a lack in your life. Or am I right?
Yeah, it got me thinking about, okay, I think I'm missing something here. Yeah, there's a change happened in Kath's life through having been to the Fatherheart School. What do I need to do? Yeah. So the first thing was to go to the 3 days of prayer and fasting, and then a few weeks ago there was a Fatherheart weekend in the Netherlands, and we went to that, and that was quite an eye opener for me. Mm-hmm. I heard some things there which perhaps I knew in my head before, but they were brought over in a different way that touched my heart. And I want to go. I want to go to the Fatherheart School, because I'm thinking, well, if that's what I got just from a Friday night and a Saturday at the weekend, what's going to happen if I go for a whole week?
Yeah, that will be great. So you are not the proud guy who doesn't want to learn something from his wife. I mean, she got something, and he wanted as well.
Yeah, I think this time was different, because there have been times in the past when I've seen Kath's spiritual growth throughout the years, and I've been jealous. I'll admit it, and I've tried to compensate for that in different ways. But this was not a jealousy. This was more a longing for something. And I think what God said to me was, and this is a word that's been coming up the last few weeks, surrender. Surrender. Give yourself over to me. And I'm realizing that I need to put away my pride. As a man, we are naturally proud. I come from a proud nation. I said in the Dutch interview, anybody who's seen what's going on with Brexit will realise what a stubborn and proud nation we are. and that's in my character. Right? Yeah, God has taken a lot of it away, but it's still there, and I need to give that up and totally to surrender and say, God, I give it all to you. You do your work, and not. That's the thing that's come across the last few weeks. I've been doing some study, but I've also learned that the word study doesn't appear in the Bible. So it's not about study, it's not about gathering head knowledge, and it's not about trying. I think that's the thing that in the past, I've always tried. Yeah, I know I'll do this, and I'll do this, and I do this, and it's trying, and it's doing it out of my own strength, and it doesn't work. Well, I have to stop doing that, and just give it to God, and let God do His work.
And it works.
Yes.
He's working, actually.
He's working. He's dealing with some things in my life right now, so they're not complete, but I always will be a work in progress.
Yeah.
But I think there's some major things about to change.
Well, you have the same twinkling in your eyes as Catherine, so you must have experienced quite some things. If you want to give an advice to the people who are watching at home, what would it be? Whether they are Christians or not Christians, whether they are seeking for a long time for more, whether they gave up already, what's the first thing what comes up in the mind of both of you? I could quote Winston Churchill. Yeah.
Never give up.
Wow.
Because if you give up, you'll miss out. I could quite easily say, "Well, that's it. I'm not. I've done all these studies. I've learned such a lot," and just stop. And then I'd miss out, because I realise that God has so much more for me. So don't give up. And I'm not saying it's easy. I won't say it's easy. Yeah? But as Paul says, persevere, run the race. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Give him your heart. If you give him your heart, that's all he wants, is your heart. And then he'll take it and heal it and make it become what he intended it to be, with his love. The Fatherheart School is a good thing, but I found that as being able to give my heart, even if it feels broken and bleeding and crying and in pieces, that I've found it, just say to the people, give him your heart. Come as a child and give him my heart, and ask him to come and touch you.
So in 4 years, you didn't have the impression you never succeeded or thought about giving your heart?
I don't think I did. I think my heart had so many walls around it of protection, of fear of pain, fear of many things. I think unconsciously I had walls around my heart, and I had never really said, well, look, I'll allow you to pull the walls down and come in. I think I felt the pain was too big. My God wasn't big enough. I thought my pain and my problems were too much and too big, and he probably wouldn't be interested in it. And of course, soon as I realized that that's not who he was, is really studying and knowing who this Father really is helpful, because it puts away the lies of what I believed about about what a father was. Certainly knowing who the Father is helpful, because it breaks down the lies. And then allowing him to touch your heart, even if it hurts. If you clean a wound in your leg, it's got poison in it. It has to be cleaned, you know, mothers clean it and before the plaster goes on. It does hurt when he touches your heart, but it's to clean it and make it more whole. That's what I've been discovering.
Great. Well, it's great to have you with us, and I think we will meet often again. But thanks a lot for your testimony, for the things you shared with the people at home.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
A blessing for all of us. And I would advise everyone who's looking to this session, just visit a Fatherheart School, whatever. I mean, not whatever, just a Fatherheart School. I think it's very, very important. But thanks for looking. Many blessings. Bill and Catherine, thanks for sharing and coming.
Thank you. A pleasure. Thank you. It's an honor to have done this. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.